Welcome to another insert on how to use Tjhoko Paint. Today I'll be showing you how to transform an outside area using Tjhoko Paint. And yes, you heard correctly, we can work with Tjhoko Paint outdoors.
In this outdoor entertainment area, Nadine has created stools by molding concrete in petrol drums that were cut in half. She's also made a flower box and embellished it with a Tjhoko Moroccan stencil design, giving it a tiled look.
On this board, I'll be showing you how to do the stencil work step by step, and you will see how easy it is to accomplish it yourself. When working with Tjhoko, it's always important to remember that the surface you're working on is clean and grease-free. On any other surface, we recommend to first clean with lacquer thinners. On a wall surface, that is not needed. All you need to do is wash the wall down with water and wait for it to dry properly before you start painting. My first color I'm working with is True Blue. And now I'm going to prepare my second paint tray with the color Simon Says. Next, I'll be using a foam roller. So I make sure that I wet my foam roller well with some paint. Roll it out to make sure that it's not too wet, else the paint will just leak in underneath your stencil. And now I'm going to start by painting every alternative block in the color True Blue. My stencil has been secured with some masking tape. You will see I'm going to use two stencil designs. This is part of our layered stencil designs. Once I'm done with the True Blue, I will continue with the Simon Says. Next, I'll be using a pencil to make marks to see where my first stencil design was. So when I reapply my second stencil design, it will be in the correct same position. Next, I'll be using my second stencil design, which is a beautiful Moroccan design in all different patterns. And I will reapply it exactly in the same position as my first stencil design. We've waited more or less 20 minutes for the paint to dry. Next, we are going to start with the design work. On every yellow block, we will use the color Tjhoko, which is a nice green. Once again, I'll be using a foam roller as the surface is large and a stencil brush will just take up too much time. I press my stencil design down and I look for any loose bits and ends. Make sure I press it down before I start with the rolling process. I'm now done with the first step of my design work, and now I'm going to start with something very exciting. We've actually never mixed paints into our stencil of Paris to change the color. That's something we are going to do today. I've chosen to use the color Elvis Mix to add to my stencil of Paris. I'm going to scoop some of the stencil of Paris out, add some of the Elvis Mix paint to it. You can add 10 milliliters of paint to change the color of this stencil of Paris. Also bear in mind you don't want to add too much paint, else the stencil of Paris will be runny and it will leak in behind your stencil. Once again, I look for any loose bits or ends, make sure I hold it tight or work with my paint scraper in that direction to make sure it's nice and flat on the surface. If you see, once you've removed the stencil, that there's any unevenness, you can take a 100 grit piece of sandpaper when it's dry and just sand the surface nice and smooth. Once this is done and the stencil of Paris is still wet, you can remove your stencil, wash your stencil in water and start with a reapplication to the next area. Once my paint and stencil work is complete, I'll allow for it to cure for 4 hours before I start with a clear glaze application. Seeing that the flower box is outside, we want the surface to be water resistant and UV resistant. I make sure that I reach all the crevices and detail, and I make sure that the wiping is done nicely and evenly. Once the first application is complete, I wait half an hour and I reapply the glaze, just to make sure that I give extra protection, especially with the African weather and rain and heat.
Nadine has also used this technique to transform the guest toilet. Colors Coral Stone, Comfort's Blue and Lorraine's Green, along with the repurposed basket and piece of wood, have given the space a bohemian look.
I hope that this insert has inspired you to create something awesome in your own entertainment area.
Visit thehomechannel.co.za for a full list of Tjhoko Paint workshops and more. For stockist opportunities, email Nadine at tjokopaint.co.za. Happy painting!